Here's day 2 of the motor rebuild. So I'll just kind of catch you up. Taking out the radiator so far. Also took out the air conditioner radiator here. Probably won't put that in. So if anybody wants it, air compressor pump is there as well. And I have all the lines and whatnot. So not really sure how to run this. People said they wanted to see the build, so I'll just kind of film as I go. And yeah, so I guess ask any questions or whatnot, and I'll try to go over some things. So next step for today is to drop the downpipe right here. Probably pull the motor with the transmission. It's just a bit easier. Just need an engine hoist to get this thing out of here. Main wiring is here. Pretty much it kind of sucks with this engine. You got to take the whole upper intake manifold off to get to the clips on the injectors that are on this harness. So another option is to just pull the harness out of the firewall, which is probably what I'll do because I'm not going to keep this wiring harness anymore. I'm going to upgrade to different ECU, get a flying lead harness, and then just wire up what I need. Because right now I'm using one of the older Haltecs with it's like a plug and play connector, so I can just run basically a stock harness, and it's just a little piggyback connector that plugs into the stock harness and then goes into the Haltec ECU, which at the time made a lot of sense, and pretty much got me up and running. I don't know, almost in one day with the different ECU, and radically improved the vehicle. So that was pretty cool. See other things. So power steering pump is right here, which has been really problematic for all this intercooler piping. See this one right here. So yeah, this one I already had to put a little indent basically right there and there to clear the components, because that has to sit basically in there, which gets super close to power steering pump and also to the brake master cylinder reservoir, which it was almost touching, and with engine shake it does touch, and that's not cool because I don't want to break that off. So trying to look at kind of other options to relocate power steering. I'd really like to run an electric power steering rack. I think that'd be pretty awesome. I'm not sure if there's necessarily space down there to do that. I haven't really done the research. Some other people run, from my understanding, a MR2 electric power steering pump, which it's a regular hydraulic pump, but it has an electric motor, and then you stash that away, somewhere else in the engine bay. But I've heard a lot of YouTube videos that people have done that on, and all you hear is the electric pump on the gear pump just whining, and that's not acceptable. That's not the point, right? So other option, right, manual steering rack, but then you lose the steering ratio, or you depower the power rack. That's another option. Haven't really decided yet. That's kind of further down the road to figure that one out. Also want to relocate the alternator to the right side to free up space basically on top, because the alternator it sits right here, so it makes it really problematic to run any strut bar. Every strut bar I see, basically, because alternator sits here and your shock towers from here to here, they always come out forward and around, so you basically end up with this big springboard right here, and it's basically useless. So ideally, get rid of the alternator, mount it down here, either do something different, the power steering pump, remove it, go electric, go manual. Don't have the AC pump anymore. That'll free up all the space up here. Also thinking about getting rid of the mechanical water pump. You can buy an adapter for the front of the motor, so you just have your in and out, and then run a electric water pump So this whole mass here then get removed, and that really frees up a lot of space from shock tower to shock tower to put very lightweight single straight tube, which is pretty much ideal. I've seen some triangulation from shock tower to the back of the firewall. I might do that. It's a real pain in the ass when you have to work on the car though, and then you have to have bolted connections, and then there shouldn't be that much body flex, so bolted connection can sometimes oval out and then become useless, and that's kind of pointless. You're just carrying around weight that's not doing anything. Let's see what else. So who posted up a while ago the front mount intercooler I put in. You can kind of see it right there. Here it is right here in the front. Pretty nice low profile. It's a little too low for me. I just got to be careful on like parking blocks to not run into this. Let's see here. Piping goes up through here and comes right here to the turbo. So for the turbo, I'm probably going to upgrade either B&R hybrid or something completely different. I definitely want to stick with internally routed wastegate. I don't want to have an external dumping wastegate. That's for race car. This is still a street / race car, so I say that lightly. See, also want to run probably FD intake, run different throttle body, FD intake, come over here. I think that just looks a lot cleaner, and then you don't have this weird like intake path and the restriction of this throttle body. And then actually run a proper TPS sensor instead of this like weird sliding dual action assembly here, which is just clever for Mazda but problematic. I'm not actually using throttle sensor for fuel load, just using the map sensor, but throttle sensor is used for transients and some other tuning, so still need a throttle sensor to have better tuning. Let's see some other things. For those that are not aware of what a rotary engine is, I got some old parts here. This housing is the S4NA, which I'm probably going to sell. It's cleaned up pretty nicely actually. There's not too much chipping, so usually these rotor housings they'll have a really low spot, which this is low here from the edge of the apex seal, but it's not chipping. So kind of mixed opinions on this. I mean, it's fine for like a regular rebuild, but if you're going for power, it's probably not going to deliver. This is the rotor that was in there. It's in decent shape. I'm pretty sure this is S4NA. I haven't really looked at it in too much detail. I also have another housing that I need to clean up. So I got my engine stand. I just need an engine hoist to get this thing out of here. Some of the other things. Another project that I'm working on here is for my Subaru. Finally sprung some money for lower control arm bushings because that car has 0 steering wheel feel and the front tires feel like they're shaking all over the place. So hopefully this will help me out, get some feel back in that car so I don't hate driving it, which is kind of funny, but it's true. Run the coil rad with electric E-fan on here, 2-speed. It's switched on and off with the Haltech. And yeah, so that's the build. I guess I'll kind of set up the camera and do a little time lapse on taking some parts off of here. I'm going to take off the power steering pump, upper intake manifold, and just kind of lighten up the motor to get it out a little easier, since that stuff has to come off anyway. So here we go. little check-in. So some things you may have seen, you know, I put this thing in, what, 2015 I think is when this motor went in, and I like to think I've learned a lot from now since then. Fuel lines using regular hose clamp. I just cut these because I'm going to replace them. You might be able to see right here, it's, you know, all chewed in from the style of hose clamps. It's not a fuel rated hose clamp, so it will eat into the rubber, and you know, eventually with all the motor shaking around, it will cut through and you'll get a fuel leak. So use a proper style band clamp that doesn't have the exposed serrations there that it's going to cut through. Same thing on this main heater line. You know, as you can see, it's cut in here as well. This hose line is always problematic. I don't know if anybody's found any better solution to this, because this part of the rubber hose line always falls apart. I don't know if there's a silicone option out there. Maybe I could fab something up, but the oil filter sits right there. There's the oil pressure sender right there, and you usually have an oil leak. This motor is definitely one of them, and you get oil that drips right down right here onto the spigot here, and it just eats the rubber, and you will get a water leak there. It just happens. So next thing I have to do is disconnect the oil lines here, drain the oil out of the motor. Most of the electrical is done. I just have to undo the starter motor, and then this side will pretty much be free, ready to come out. On this side here, like I said, down pipe has come out, and go inside and push out the wiring harness and just take out the motor as is. So probably throw the camera underneath. I got to get the car jacked up so I can get underneath there. Get the starter motor disconnected, drive shaft pulled, drain engine oil, transmission oil, and yeah. Alright, got the car up off the ground. Go underneath and show you what I gotta do. One thing to note is I got these really nice jack stands here, and I cut out some wood blocks that bridge the kind of this pinch seam in the body. It's actually a really nice spot to jack up on the car. It's always been kind of a struggle to find a good spot. This pretty good reinforced. I mean, this is kind of where you jack up the car if you had to change a spare tire in the road. I mean, every RX-7 always has a damage here, and then on this part here, where if you take it into a shop, they always put the jack pad here, or they put it here, and they wreck the body. If I'm not going to do anything with the rear subframe, I usually just put a jack stand here. But now that I have these wood blocks made, it's really stable. These are also really stable, so feel pretty comfortable getting on the car. Have one over there as well. So yeah, under the car now. This is the full Racing Beat T2 exhaust. I think this is 3.5 inch diameter. I forget. It's pretty massive though for such a small car, relatively speaking, right? But the rotary turbo, you want all that massive flow without any back pressure. I'll just kind of go all the way back behind the car. Only downside with this exhaust is it's very heavy, but it also gets very hot, so it has to be pretty thick wall. But really nice quality stuff. The brackets here have broken on me a few times. You can see now this rubber bushing here probably needs to be replaced, because I have a video clip of underneath the car and dropping the clutch. The whole rear of the muffler shakes around quite a bit. Also, get some light over here. I was noticing under hard cornering, this I think is pushing over enough, and the heat shield is rubbing the inside of the tire. Made a pretty interesting noise, but I think I figured that one out. So rear diff, it's a new Delrin bushings into the diff carrier. Have new shocks coming, so I'm going to get rid of these. if anybody wants them. It's the it's got the ground control sleeve coil kit on it on KOB AGX front and rear. You can see the new bushings they have in the rear knuckle. That's pretty cool. Another thing, I don't know if I can show you. Try to get the light over here. Actually, let me just get my flashlight out. So I have what they call a pinion snubber. It's basically like a truck bump stop. You can kind of see it right there. But that prevents the front of the diff going up. So you have a small gap right there. So when you have a lot of load on this rear diff, it wants to climb up the ring gear. So the snout actually wants to run up, and that's where you get a lot of problems with your front diff bushing, ripping, and tearing. So I run just this snubber here that prevents that, so that I can run a rubber front bushing, because I'm not about that welded life. Way too much NVH. I already have too much now with the solid subframe bushings. But all right, so back to the front. Kind of next step here is disconnect the 3 bolts there on a down pipe. Take off all this heat shielding here so I can get the drive shaft pulled out. It's up in there. So that's the work. Okay, so I got complete exhaust pulled out, heat shields down, drive shafts pulled out. There's transmission. So a nice clutch in there, hardly used. I'm really curious to see how the flywheel's looking and how the clutch is looking. Just with, I don't know, I think I was down here like 100 miles ago putting that in. Kind of short-lived. But so kind of next step. I'm probably done for the night. It's getting a little late. Gotta undo the cross member bolts here. Get inside the car and take out the shift linkage so those can drop out of the tunnel. Loosen up the motor mounts, just 2 of them left and right. And then yank the motor out. It's pretty much ready to go. Little fun thing I've been doing. I don't know, it might catch on, but every time I get under the car or take out the drive shaft, just put a date on it. So maybe there'll be a bunch of dates on here, maybe only a few. Time will tell on that. Here's the full Racing Beat exhaust. Let's see if I can measure it real quick. So I wasn't sure on the diameter earlier. So yeah, it's 3-inch. With the turbo flange, it's 2.5 inlet. So the thing flows pretty well, and it's really quiet, which is nice with the way California is being really awesome about noise and whatnot. Here's the back of the exhaust. I also have an NA exhaust with some weird mufflers on the back if anybody's interested. I'm not going to run it. It's a little too loud. I mean, it's not that loud, but I like to push my car fast, and if the car is too loud, you can't do it. So there's that. Yes, the last thing is wire harness, and like I said, the shift boot. Pull that out, and still have to drain the oil on the motor so I can take out the oil lines. But that's it. I don't think I explained the internals of the rotor engine very well. I don't have all the parts. These are just some leftover parts from the motor that actually came in this car that was seized up from the beginning. But this is your rotor here. There's side seals on either side, and then there's apex seals that run in each apex of the rotor. This doesn't have the apex seals in it at the moment. This runs in the motor. I can kind of run it through its shape. So that's kind of the motion that it runs in. Exhaust port is right here. There's two side irons that go on either side of the rotor housing, and the two intake ports actually come in this fashion. Intake strokes on the top, compression's on this side, expansion is here, exhaust is here. There are no valves, so in that way it's kind of like a two-stroke, but it's not reciprocating in it's two-stroke fashion. Centric shaft is here. That's what connects the two rotors to the two housings. Yeah, that's just kind of a little introduction. If you're really curious, there's plenty of good YouTube videos on how rotary works, but here's some parts.